If you rely on Social Security, what I'm about to tell you isn't just another number on a government report. It's personal, because this new update could mean thousands of dollars that should already be in your pocket, but aren't. I'm talking about a shocking $4,442 a year that the average Social Security recipient is missing right now. And once you understand how this happened, you'll realize this isn't just a glitch. It's a slow motion loss that's been quietly draining your benefits for more than a decade. I'm Tony, and for years I've been breaking down the truth behind the headlines, explaining how every decision out of Washington, every inflation report, every so-called adjustment directly affects your wallet. I use the real numbers from the Social Security Administration, the Treasury, and the Senior Citizens League, the same organizations the networks rarely mention when they flash quick stats on the screen. And today, what those sources reveal should make every retiree in America stop and ask one simple question: where did the money go? Here's the bottom line. The Senior Citizens League just released data showing that since 2010, Social Security beneficiaries have lost roughly 20% of their purchasing power. Think about that. One-fifth of what your money could buy 15 years ago has simply vanished. That translates to more than $4,000 a year, or about $370 every single month, that should be cushioning your budget, but isn't. And yet, every January, people are told they're getting a cost of living increase, a little bump that's supposed to keep them even with inflation. But the truth is, that adjustment has been running on outdated math for decades. Let's call it what it is: a broken promise. The COLA, the cost of living adjustment, is meant to protect your benefit from the rising prices that hit your grocery cart, your gas tank, and your prescription bill. The government calculates it using the CPIW, a measure of what working people spend money on. The flaw? Retirees don't live like 20-year-olds commuting to work. Seniors spend far more on medical care, utilities, and essentials that have risen much faster than the items tracked by CPIW economists have been saying for years that the CPIE, which tracks senior spending, would be fairer. But every year, that debate gets buried in bureaucracy while real people lose ground. Now, inflation is the villain in every budget story, but this version of inflation, the one we're told about, doesn't match the one we live with. You've felt it yourself. You walk into the same store, buy the same basket of groceries, and watch the total climb higher month after month. The cereal box shrinks from 14 ounces to 12. The coffee canister costs 50 cents more, and yet official reports tell us prices are stable. That's called shrinkflation: less product, same or higher price. And it's one of the quiet ways purchasing power erodes while official statistics claim everything's fine. To understand just how deep this gap runs, let's look back to the year 2000. Over the past 25 years, the total increase in consumer prices for essentials, food, housing, energy, healthcare, is around 145%. During that same period, Social Security's cost of living adjustments added up to only 84%. That leaves a 61% gap between the real cost of living and the benefits meant to cover it. That's not speculation. Those are the numbers compiled by independent analysts. And when you translate that into daily life, it means your check covers less food, fewer prescriptions, and a smaller margin for emergencies than it did at the turn of the century. The system is designed to appear generous in headlines. Benefits rise 3%, seniors get a record COLA, but what they don't say is that those increases lag months behind the actual price surges. By the time you receive the adjustment, the cost of essentials has already outpaced it. It's like trying to climb a down-moving escalator. You're walking, but you're not getting anywhere. The Senior Citizens League called it exactly that: a quiet loss of purchasing power year after year, adding up to a massive shortfall. Now, imagine the impact of that shortfall on real people. Think about a retiree living on a fixed income of $1,800 a month. A loss of $370 monthly means tough choices: skipping meals, delaying dental work, cutting pills in half to stretch prescriptions. I spoke with one woman recently who told me her grocery budget has stayed the same for 3 years, but what fits in her shopping cart is half what it used to be. She laughed when she said it, but it wasn't a happy laugh. She said, "Tony, they keep telling us inflation is down, but I can't find it in my wallet." That's the human side of this report. Numbers turned into anxiety, lost security, and fading dignity. And here's what adds insult to injury. When you turn on most news programs, they don't talk about this. They might mention inflation once a month, maybe when gas prices spike, but they don't connect the dots between those reports and what's actually happening to your Social Security check. Why? Because it's complicated, and complicated doesn't fit in a 2-minute news segment. But you deserve the full story. You deserve to know that the formula itself, the one determining your annual adjustment, is outdated, inaccurate, and frankly unfair. The difference between reported inflation and real inflation might sound small, 2% here, 3% there, but over 15 years, it snowballs into thousands of dollars lost. And while that's happening, you'll hear officials say, inflation is under control. Under control for whom? Because for retirees, every trip to the store, every doctor's visit, every electric bill tells a different story. Let's put this in perspective. The Federal Reserve aims for 2% annual inflation, calling it healthy for the economy. But from 2020 to 2025, prices have jumped closer to 30% overall. That's not 2% a year. That's compounding pain. And yet COLA increases during that time barely offset half of that rise. The result? A generation of retirees losing ground faster than any in modern history. And the terrifying part? This isn't a temporary spike. Even as inflation cools in reports, prices don't go backward. The new normal is simply higher, and benefits never catch up. If you're feeling that squeeze, you're not imagining it. You're not bad at budgeting. The system itself has failed to protect you from inflation's compounding bite. And when people ask, why isn't my check going as far as it used to? The honest answer is because the formula that calculates your benefit hasn't kept up with reality. So what can you do? Start by staying informed. Every year, around October, the Social Security Administration announces the next COLA. When that number comes out, compare it to the inflation you see in your daily life, the grocery aisle, the pharmacy, the gas station. Don't just accept the official number as truth. And when organizations like the Senior Citizens League release their studies, read them. They're not political, they're factual. They show the difference between what's promised and what's delivered. Next, if you're still working or approaching retirement, understand your claiming strategy. Many people claim benefits too early because they feel desperate to start receiving something. But delaying benefits, if you can, still increases your monthly check for life. That won't fix the inflation problem, but it gives you a slightly stronger base to work from. And if you're already retired, track every COLA announcement and document how your costs change. Having that data empowers you to advocate, to contact your representatives, to demand that CPIE, the index that actually reflects senior spending, replace CPIW in the calculation. Let's talk about the bigger picture. This issue doesn't just affect current retirees, it's a warning sign for the entire system. Social Security was designed to keep pace with the cost of living, to ensure no one who paid into it would be left behind as prices rose. But when inflation reporting underestimates real costs, the system effectively becomes a slow drain on future generations too. If this continues, younger workers paying in now will face the same or worse shortfall later. The purchasing power gap that's 20% today could grow to 30, 40, even 50% in the next decade if nothing changes. And that matters for the entire economy. When seniors spend less, local businesses suffer. When benefits buy less, health outcomes decline. The ripple effect touches every community, every state, every family. It's not an abstract policy issue. It's a chain reaction that weakens the foundation of financial stability for millions. I know it's frustrating to hear all this. It's infuriating to realize that after decades of work, After faithfully paying into a system that promised security, the math was never truly on your side. But awareness is power. The first step to fixing a broken system is exposing how it's broken. And that's why we talk about it here. Because if mainstream media won't connect these dots, then we will. If this kind of information matters to you, if you want to know what's really happening with your benefits instead of waiting for sound bites that leave you guessing, then stay with me. I break this down every week so you never have to wonder what's real and what's spin. Because understanding the truth behind these numbers is how we start holding the right people accountable. So, where does this go from here? Experts believe the gap will continue to widen unless the government updates how inflation for seniors is measured. Some lawmakers have proposed switching to CPIE, but it's stalled in Congress for years. Meanwhile, each underreported year compounds the loss for everyone already retired. Think of it like unpaid interest accumulating in reverse. You're owed more than you're getting, and the longer it goes uncorrected, the more impossible it becomes to close the gap. But here's the hope. Awareness leads to pressure, and pressure leads to change. The Senior Citizens League's report is circulating widely. Financial advocacy groups are demanding hearings. The more people who understand this, the more voices join in saying enough is enough. This isn't about politics. It's about fairness, transparency, and basic respect for the people who built this country. $4,442 a year. That's the average shortfall. For some, it's groceries for months. For others, it's the difference between keeping a home or losing it. Multiply that by the millions of Americans on Social Security, and you see just how massive this problem is. It's not invisible anymore, and the more we shine light on it, the harder it becomes to ignore. So ask yourself, what would it mean if that money were finally restored? Would you worry less at the checkout counter? Would you fill your prescriptions without hesitation? Would you feel a little more peace knowing the system you paid into is finally giving you what you earned? That's what's at stake. Not numbers on a screen, but peace of mind, security, dignity. We can't fix what we don't face. But now you know the truth, the real numbers, the real cause, and the real cost. The question is what we do next. Stay informed, stay vocal, and don't let them tell you everything's fine when your wallet says otherwise. Because every voice counts, and together we can make sure the next report isn't another reminder of what's been taken, but the first sign that fairness is finally being restored. I'm Tony. Thanks for listening, for caring, and for standing up for what's right. Let's keep watching, keep questioning, and keep pushing, because this is your money, your future, and your fight.